During my wife's C-section, her brother laughed as I cried with relief. That moment burned into me forever. His cruelty showed, but so did my love. Hi everyone, the sterile scent of disinfectant, usually clinical and calming in its predictability, felt like a suffocating shroud that morning. My wife, Sarah, was behind a blue curtain, her body being meticulously, unervingly opened to bring our daughter into the world. Her hand, clammy and trembling, was clutched in mine, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and the fierce resolve that had always defined her. "You're doing great, baby," I whispered, my voice rough with unshed tears. My own heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. Every beep, every hushed word from the surgical team, amplified the terror. This wasn't the gentle, romanticized birth we'd envisioned. This was an emergency C-section, a sudden, frightening pivot after a long, arduous labor. Our little girl, my Amelia, had decided to be stubborn. And then there was David, Sarah's younger brother. He stood in the corner, invited only because Sarah, in her pre-op haze, had insisted he be there for family support. My gut had screamed against it. David had always been a thorn in my side, a master of the subtle barb, the dismissive glance. He was the kind of person who could make a sunny day feel overcast. But Sarah loved him, in her way, and I loved Sarah. So he was there, arms crossed, his gaze a mixture of boredom and something I couldn't quite decipher. The tension in the room thickened to an unbearable density. The surgeon's voice, calm and reassuring, cut through the silence. "Almost there, Sarah. Just a little more pressure." Sarah squeezed my hand, a whimper escaping her lips. I leaned in, kissing her forehead, muttering promises of forever. And then, it happened. A sound. Not a cry, not yet, but a gurgle, a wet, primal intake of breath. The doctor held her up, a tiny, purple-tinged bundle, slick with vernix, perfect and utterly new. My Amelia! The relief hit me with the force of a tidal wave, dragging me under, then lifting me to a shore I never knew existed. It wasn't just the relief that she was alive, that Sarah was safe. It was the sudden, overwhelming realization that all the fear, all the anxiety, all the agonizing weight, had culminated in this perfect, miraculous being. My breath hitched. Tears, hot and uncontrollable, streamed down my face. They weren't tears of sadness, but of an ecstasy so profound it bordered on agony. A new life. Our life. My daughter. I choked back a sob, barely able to see her through the blur. "Oh my God," I whispered, leaning my forehead against Sarah's temple, our hands still clasped. "She's here. She's finally here." It was then I heard it. A laugh. Not a joyous laugh, not one of shared elation. This was a low, guttural chuckle, laced with a cynical amusement that scraped across my soul like a jagged shard of glass. I pulled back from Sarah, my eyes still wet, and slowly turned my head towards the corner. David. He was still standing there, his head tilted back slightly, a smirk playing on his lips, a genuine, undeniable laugh rumbling in his chest. His eyes met mine, and there was no misunderstanding. He wasn't laughing with joy, or relief, or even the awkwardness some people feel in highly emotional moments. He was laughing at me, at my raw, unashamed display of love and relief, at my tears. The world tilted. In that sacred space, filled with the first cries of my child and the exhaustion of my wife, David's cruelty was a black stain, a venomous intrusion. A primal rage, cold and swift, shot through me. My hands clenched, my knuckles white. For a split second, all I wanted was to stride across that room, grab him by his ridiculous, mocking face, and smash it against the sterile wall until that laugh was choked silent. But then, another sound. A tiny, fragile wail. Amelia's first real cry, stronger now, a declaration. And Sarah, her face pale but luminous, finally saw our daughter. "Mark," she breathed, a single tear tracing a path through the sweat on her cheek. "She's beautiful." The rage, as quickly as it had come, receded, drowned out by the overwhelming tide of love. My daughter. My wife. This was what mattered. David's petty, pathetic cruelty couldn't touch this. It couldn't diminish the miracle that had just unfolded before my eyes. He could laugh, he could sneer, he could be as bitter and small as he pleased. It meant nothing. His laughter was a whisper against a roar. A nurse, gentle and efficient, brought Amelia over. I cut the cord, my hand still shaking, and held her skin to skin against Sarah's cheek. My tears flowed freely again, but this time they were pure, unadulterated joy, untainted by the shadow of David's malice. That moment burned into me forever. Not just the image of David's sneering face, his cruel amusement, but the profound dichotomy it highlighted. His cruelty showed, stark and ugly, a festering wound in the sanctity of that room. But so, too, did my love. My love for Sarah, for her strength, for her sacrifice. My love for Amelia, a fierce protective instinct that surged through every fiber of my being. My love was a shield, an armor, an unassailable fortress that David's malice could never breach. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, the memory of David's laugh would resurface. It would coil in my stomach when he visited, when he offered a backhanded compliment, or when he tried to belittle me. I never confronted him directly about that day. What was the point? He wouldn't understand. He couldn't understand the depth of emotion, the sacredness of the moment he had defiled. Instead, I let my love speak. I poured myself into fatherhood, into cherishing Sarah. Every lullaby sung, every diaper changed, every late-night feeding, every tiny finger wrapped around mine, was an act of defiance against his cynicism. His laughter that day didn't break me, it forged me. It clarified what truly mattered. It showed me the stark contrast between a heart full of bitterness and a heart overflowing with an expansive, boundless love. David eventually drifted further from our lives, his absence a quiet blessing. Sarah, when I eventually told her years later, after Amelia was old enough to laugh with pure, unadulterated joy, listened with a frown. "I knew he was difficult," she said, her hand reaching for mine, "but that's just cold." But her focus, like mine, quickly returned to our daughter, who was building a tower of blocks in the living room. The memory is still there, a scar on the landscape of my mind. But it is a scar that tells a story not of pain, but of triumph. It is a reminder of the darkness, yes, but more importantly, it is a testament to the unyielding, overwhelming light of love that burst forth that day, a light so bright it utterly eclipsed the fleeting shadow of a cruel, pathetic laugh. And every time Amelia giggles, a sound so much purer and more genuine than any cynicism David could ever muster, I know which sound truly filled that delivery room, and which sound has filled my life ever since. If you like the story, do follow for more.